Welcome to the earliest spread event that we've ever had, 11 a.m. If you're not familiar with SPREAD, it stands for Supporting Peer Respect, Education, and Discourse. And we get together once a month to spread knowledge and help each other be better prepared for life in general. Most recently, we heard about building good habits, economics, and a bunch of other topics you can find on our website, which I'll link in a second. Today, we are excited to have Sabrina Chu, a staff accountant at First Republic Bank, who uses spreadsheets in her work, managing fixed assets and other cool stuff. Sabrina has just been dying to teach us about ways we can better use spreadsheets and how spreadsheets can give us insights from any number of data points. So without further ado, I hope everyone has their Google Sheets ready to go. But here is Sabrina.
Hey everyone. Hello and welcome to Spread 20 Excel with me, your host, Sabrina Chu. Feel free to ask questions at any time or interrupt me. This should be like an open session where we're free to talk. So what is Excel? Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet program used to record and analyze numerical and statistical data. It can be used in a variety of ways in your everyday life, such as data analysis, budgeting, bookkeeping, accounting, listings, calculations, task lists, pixel art, and much more. Here, you can see an example of what I use Excel for at work sometimes when I'm bored, pixel art. So let's go over some useful functions first. We have sum if, count, Vlookup, concatenate, index, macros, and remove duplicates. Here I have a sheet where I listed the formula name, the actual formula that's used, and the purpose of the formula. I'll be going over each one individually. If you have any questions, feel free to talk. Let's go for sum if first. So sum if is used as a conditional sum across a range. What does this mean? It means across this range, you use sum to find a certain condition. In this case, we're trying to sum anything that says central in our region column. And what it sums is our total here in column G. So our formula here is sum if, our column B, and our reference that we're summing is central, which I wrote here. And I used I3. And then we use our summing column G. And this formula sums everything that has central and region, and it gives us the total for that. And the total is 5,938.38. Now let's check that. I'll be filtering for central. Oops. And here we see that the subtotal indeed is 5,938. This is useful when you're trying to find like the totals for any specific thing that you're looking for in your spreadsheet. And in this case, we use central as the thing we're looking for. Now let's look at our next formula, our if formula. The if formula returns a value based on a logical expression. In this case, if we wanted to find the totals for anything over $100, our formula would be if open the total cell is greater than 100. And then we put yes if it is greater than 100 and no if it isn't greater than 100. Here we have the formula equals if G1 is greater than 100, yes, and no. And because this G cell 2 is greater than 100, it returns yes. And here you can see for anything that's under 100, it returns no. Next, let's go over count.
Hey, yeah, column 6 was wasn't it less than 100 and said yes?
Column 6? Oh, that's right. Why? Oh, that's because it's reference G5.
Oh, it's like so
Yeah,
super
the formulas
nitpicky.
aren't right, guys. Yeah, you have to be referencing the right column for it to give you the right answer back. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, cool. Next, let's go over count. Count is exactly what it sounds like. It counts the number of cells that have like a value in it. So you use count if it's for numbers, and you use count A if it's for any non-numerical data. So here in this formula, we use count, and then we highlight the number of cells we wanted to count, which was these dates, which are numbers, and that's why we use the count formula rather than count A. And here I highlighted the count, and it gave me back 30 for the dates and 30 for the regions. This is useful when you have like a large amount of data and you want to count all the cells that have actual data in it. I use this often when I'm working with large spreadsheets and I just want to know how many cells or assets that I'm processing at that moment. Next, let's look at Vlookup. So Vlookup is a vertical lookup of a value in a range. What does this mean? It means given a specific data point that you have, you look up that data point and the regions next to that data point in order to find information across. So in this case, if I were VLOOKUPing my order date and I wanted to find out what region corresponded with that order date, I would go equals VLOOKUP the date, the range, which is A and B. And then for VLOOKUP, you have to use the index number, which is the number over from your first column. In this case, because B is the second column over from A, you use 2. And finally, to finish this formula, you put false or 0. I personally use 0 just because it's a lot faster. So here you see my formula is equals VLOOKUP I3, which is the date that I'm looking for. And it gives me back central as the lookup. And basically, yeah. So what this formula does is that it looks up my reference in this, and then it goes over to the side and looks for whatever data point I'm asking for. Next, we'll be going over the concatenate function. This function basically just strings together 2 of your cells together, 2 or more of your cells together. And in this example, we wanted to concatenate our representative and our item. How you do this is that you put equals concatenate, open parentheses, and then you highlight as many cells as you want. Usually it's horizontal or vertical, it's only one. And then when you close it, it puts it together for you. Another way of doing this is that rather than using equals concatenate, you can put equals that cell, an and sign, and then however many cells you want, and it returns the same thing. But this is useful when you're trying to do a lookup, and sometimes your lookup may not have a specific information, right? So for example, if we're trying to look up something central, but because there's so many centrals here, there's nothing specific. So we would concatenate central and the representative name in order to have a specific item to look up. And finally, we have our index formula. Personally, I don't really use this as much, and that's why I'm not really familiar with it. But the index function basically looks up the content of a cell based on the row and column. So in order to know this information, you need to know the row number and the column number. In this example, we looked up information that had the order date 2/9/2020 and under the index column. So for index match, you have to put equals index, your reference. So this entire data right here, you highlight that, and then you put the row number and the column number. In this case, the row number was 3, 1, 2, 3, and the column number was 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it returns the numerical value or whatever value you're looking up. And that's basically it for formulas. Do we have any questions? Hey, for VLOOKUP, what happens if there are 2 cells with the same lookup value? Does it just return the first one? Yes, Henry, it does actually return the first one. And that's why sometimes it's helpful to use index match instead, because that returns that exact number from the row and value. When would you want to concatenate? Well, Wesley, we would want to concatenate when, for example, you want to have a very specific lookup value. For example, like Henry said, if there's 2 cells with the same lookup value, we would want something even more specific to look up so that we can get to that exact information faster without any like duplicate information. When I clean up data for my clients, sometimes I have to adjust their data to match the field I'm importing into. If you're talking about, okay, at West. Great answer, Stephen. Okay, if no one else has any more questions.
Wait, so
Yes,
index does the same thing as VLOOKUP?
Kind of. So VLOOKUP, it's like, I usually use it when I only have one point of information and not the other, but index, you usually use it if you have like 2 points of information. So like both like the column and the row number. Okay. So that was it for functions. Next, I just have a useful list of shortcuts. You guys can look at this on your own time and try it out on your Excels or Google Sheets. All of these should be about the same on both of them. I personally like using Excel more just because I find it like a lot easier to do shortcuts, but I know that's not available for everyone. So these are the list of shortcuts that's available for both Google Sheets and Excel. Okay, let's go over an example of an Excel use. So let's go over a simple budgeting exercise. This can be a group or personal exercise. In the example budget, I'd like you to fill out the following information: your 2021 salary income, expenses that you have, non-monthly expenses and income, and other related information. And this doesn't have to be like actual real life information. You can make things up just to like see how this works. Carmen, can you change into the groups? Yes. Hello, I hope everyone had fun working on their spreadsheets and playing around with Google Sheets. Does anyone want to present what their group did? Oh, it sounds like Wesley had so much fun. Let's have Wesley present. Go ahead.
You're on mute, by the way.
Oh, no wonder. I was just talking to
Oh my
myself.
God, what happened with your monthly expenses?
Well, we're dirt poor.
I think that's worse than poor.
I've allocated enough to buy myself a rope. Don't worry.
Jesus. It's a good rope.
Oh wow, car loan. What kind of car do you have? Your pet? You don't have pets.
We have a rocket for a car, okay?
Gifts for families and friends. Oh, what great number, 888.
Yes.
These are very good numbers.
Very lucky. I didn't know what we were supposed to implement the formulas into.
No, this is just like, it has some formulas already. I'll just show you
Okay.
guys how they work.
It was Excel magic. I put some
It
numbers
was
in
Excel
here,
magic,
and
indeed.
then it pops up in here.
Then
Crazy.
boom. Yeah,
Let me get myself out of debt first.
great, excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Party at Wesley's house.
in my cardboard box.
Cool. Does anyone else want to share? Stephen?
Yeah, I'll share what we did. We just let me share.
We're the opposite of Wesley.
Yeah, what's these?
We're filthy rich.
Yeah, so we're over here making 500,000 a year. So one thing we did was calculate a savings rate, which is your annual, what you have left over after your expenses divided by your yearly income. So you just have to reference the cells correctly. If you click on the formula cell and you click up here, you can see that it's nice and it's highlighted the colors. So it's referencing this cell divided by this cell. And so we are putting away 85% of our yearly income, which is obviously amazing. Another thing we did was figure out this conditional formatting. I think somebody had a question earlier, where it automatically will turn red or green depending on a certain formula. So I forgot what it was, but let's see if we.
Can you click back on the cell? I think so on the side here, it says that the conditional format, it turns red when the value is less than 36K, and it turns green when it's greater than 36K. And I think this is Roy's question. How do you format a cell so that it changes color when you enter like certain data points in? And basically, you just highlight that row or like column that you're formatting the cells in, or it could be like a whole range of cells, and then you just add conditional formatting to it, which is under format, and then near the bottom, conditional formatting. Yep. Excellent. Great.
So now we know, like, if our goal is to save X amount per month, this is a bad month for us. This is a good month for us, and we're on track.
Yep. Sounds good.
That's what we did.
Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Unless anyone else wants to present and share what they did. What's chat say? Okay. You see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Cool. So we went through that example of using like a spreadsheet for an example budget. Next, we'll go into our next question from Stephen. Anything that will help you if you got like 3 spreadsheets of names, but individuals are on all 3 sheets with their names spelled and formatted slightly differently. Okay. So tips I have for this is that you combine the sheets into one spreadsheet with different tabs. You have the correct spelling on one of the tabs with all the individuals' names, and they have different formats to text to columns so that they all have the same formats in each of the tabs. And lastly, in the tab with the correctly spelled names, do a Vlookup for information from the other tabs. And this will be the formula that we'll be using. It's a Vlookup. You can Vlookup between different spreadsheets, by the way. Okay, let's let it load. Cool. Yeah, so here I have Stephen's example. Here is my first tab with all the names that are spelled correctly, and our second and third tabs with the names spelled incorrectly, but they have our reference information in them. So normally we would use a Vlookup, a normal Vlookup, using the name, and then the information that we're looking for to 0. But here you can see that because the names aren't spelled correctly, we can't use the Vlookup information. So what do? In this case, we have a special Vlookup where we take the first 6 letters of the name from column A. So let's do our formula left, open, our cell, and it takes the first 6 letters. What do you do after this? So far with the first 6 letters, it spells Bob space Bo. And then after that, we'll need to add a wildcard. So I'll use this function, which is similar to our concatenate function. And then wildcard is parentheses, asterisk, parentheses. And after we change this, it should return the information. Cool. Oh, and basically what I did just now is that you can copy down the information by like clicking the corner of the cell and dragging it down. Or another thing you can do is you just double click it and it'll also drag down the information.
So I don't need a comma in between the ampersand and your wildcard?
No.
Okay.
The column would be only if you're using the concatenate function, which we can also use. So look up concatenate. And it's basically the same thing. I personally like using the and sign just because I think it's easier than typing out concatenate.
Okay.
But for the and sign, you have to keep putting the and sign. What's that saying? What are the first three and the rightmost three were wrong? Can you somehow use the center characters? Yes, you can. Only if the sets, the middle characters all match. So let's try it. I don't know. Actually, I've never actually tried that, but let's see. So, middle. Actually, don't know if that would work just because the wildcard is any combination of letters. So I think you can only use the wildcard like at the end. I've never actually tried using it in the beginning.
What about the front? Can we wildcard in the front and then, for example, like the last name is correct, but then the first name isn't?
Mid.
Yeah. Honestly, with how good Excel is, I would say it is theoretically possible. It's just a question of getting there.
Yeah, I don't think it works. Let's take 3. Yeah. I don't think it works in this problem, but maybe if there was another problem where the middle 3 were correct, for like all the cells, then it would work. But just for this case, because I changed all the names so that the middles wouldn't match, I think this wouldn't work in this case. Yeah, let's do the same thing with birth year, which corresponds with our third tab, equals Vlookup. And then we do left, the cell 6, and our wildcard. More in chat. Yes, yes, yes. And that's basically how you answer the question for how do you like consolidate the information for 3 tabs names where people's names are spelled slightly differently in each tab. Next, let's go back to our presentation and go over macros. So a macro is a recorded set of actions used to automate tasks, used for repetitive tasks that involve multiple actions, formatting, and cleaning up data, and it can be used between sheets and saved on a button. Okay, let's go back to this sheet. Did someone have a question? Does capitalization matter? I don't actually think it matters. You can probably do like lowercase here. I think it would still return the same thing. Yep. So as long as like the letters are the same, it doesn't matter if capitalization matters or not. Okay, so for a macro, let's say that before I started everything we did just now, I went to Tools, and I recorded a macro. Again, A macro basically is just a recording of all the actions you do on a cell or on a sheet, and it copies everything that you do into a script. After you're done recording your macro, you press save, and then your macro is automatically here. So let's say everything I did just now, I recorded on my macro, right? My macro would repeat everything that I did. And it basically just instantly does it for you. If you have a repetitive sheet that you do every month and you don't want to do it every month, then you can record a macro and just play the macro every time you enter that sheet. You can also save a macro on a button. So this right here, this robot is actually a button for the macro that we just did. And when I click it, boom, the work is done for me.
How do you add that macro to a button?
Yes. So first of all, you have to know your macro name. In this case, our macro name was incorrect names. Note that when you apply your macro to a button, there can't be spaces and it has to be spelled exactly like this. So here I would insert an object or a drawing like this. Let's do, what shape should we do? Let's do a smiley face. It's red.
That's an angry smiley face.
Yeah. Button. Okay, and here we have our button. So in Google Sheets, there's this ... but I think in Excel you can just right click it and apply it to a macro. But in Google Sheets, we press the ... We assign our script, and our script name was incorrect names. Notice there's no space here. Press OK, and this should become a button. Cool, cool.
So if there's a space in
Yes,
our
we are
macro,
manhwa in my bookmark bar. Thank you.
my favorite manhwa. So if there's a space in between your original name of the
Yes.
macro, you just skip
Yeah,
it?
you skip
just
it.
skip the spacing?
Because this script
Okay.
doesn't run with like spaces in between the names. So if I add a space like this, it won't run. It just says script incorrect functions cannot be found. Yeah. And so I'd go back in here. I don't even know how to edit it. Oh. I'd have to go back in here, get rid of the space. And it works. Yeah, even if I like sorted these into like a different, like let's say I inserted, let's say I did it in this order instead, right? Which is different from our first order. I think the macro should apply the information the same. Yeah. And so it just basically applies those formulas and like formatting that you did before. It doesn't matter like if it's like different information from the start. It just applies in this area the same formatting formulas. I personally use macros every month for like my variance analyses at work. Those variance analyses require that like I have to format all my cells a certain way, that I have to create pivot tables and everything. And basically at the click of a button, my macro does it for me. It's really finicky though, in that if like something is slightly off from like your previous month's formatting for your initial data, it might not run correctly. So just make sure that like, even if it's like different data, that it's the same like number of columns, the same column names and everything, and it should work.
What if You
that was
get
it.
a new
Yes.
spreadsheet with more columns. Do you
So
just
if you have a
add-
different spreadsheet with more columns, I'd say that you would want to apply your macro, like not just from like a certain range from like here to here, but you would want to apply your macros to like the lowest your sheet can go.
Okay.
But yeah, this is just useful if you have a lot of actions that you want to do and you don't want to keep doing them every month. And that's all I had. Nice. Yes, time for questions.
I want to that.
Oh, hi, Avery.
Hi, Avery.
Avery.
Yeah.
We just wanted to say hi. Bye.
If your sheet spans from A to
Bye.
Z rows, where would you put the button? Yes, your macro can do pivots as long as you record them during your macro recording. So let's say, let's record a new macro. Or let's keep this information. But you want this to be a pivot, right? How do I do pivots from here? Pivot table. So I do this statement. Oh, but before that, macros. Tools, record macro. Okay, so I highlight, I go to data and pivot table. Go to a new sheet. Let's do names. And let's say this is my pivot table, right? I can save this as pivot, save. And let's say I never did this work right. If I assign, oops, this button pivot, I think it should create a pivot sheet for you. Of course, it doesn't name the sheet. If you wanted to name this, you would name it during the macro. Yes. Magic. What if your data set varies in size every time? If your data set varies in size every time, I'd say as long as like there's the same number of columns, when you first record your macro, if you do it all the way to like the bottom of your sheet, then it should capture all the data every time.
Yeah, macros are pretty advanced. So if you're not familiar with the basic formulas and you don't understand like what kind of exactly is going on in your sheet, you're gonna probably run into a lot of troubles when you try to run your macros because you're gonna have to identify exactly what went wrong. Because you're gonna hit the macro and it's gonna do what you did, but if some of your data is not formatted well, or when you're recording your macro and you missed a step or something, you're gonna have to do a bunch of troubleshooting. But once you figure it out, it'll save you a lot of time, of course.
Yep. And that's basically all I had for the presentation. Any additional questions? Excellent. Is everyone enjoying their weekend so far? 3-day weekend?
Say hi.
Yes.
I'm gonna go play with Avery.
Okay, well,
Okay.
Since it's the weekend, it's a 3-day weekend, and we all want to enjoy our weekends, I'll give you guys back this time. If no one has any additional questions. Hi, Avery. Okay, enjoy your weekends, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina.
No problem.
we can move into a discussion phase if people want to and share how they use Excel, or if anyone is working on any projects for work or for personal stuff, and they had a general question. We'll just do a open discussion. Like most people should probably, if you don't use a service like, I don't know, I think Mint does budget stuff. But if you were so inclined, most people should be tracking their personal finances, if not through some third-party app, then their own personal Excel sheets. There are many templates and examples online that's super helpful. But if not, then you should probably look into starting one. I have I built my own little format for myself. It's not as good as other templates, but I could share, for example, what it looks like with some fake numbers here. So this is just a monthly thing. So for every month, I make a new sheet. This is January 2021, and then I have certain categories that I put in, that I do whatever. I have the date of my purchase or expense, so it's just like January, whatever, 27th, so whatever. And then what the purchase goes to, what the amount was, and then what category that I'm putting it in. And then so, you just keep adding to this, and then I total it up in this. This is a pivot table. And then from this pivot table, I create a pivot chart, which, it's a nice graphical thing that it shows you, hey, this month you're putting this much in this category, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much the most basic thing. And then, if I were like, if I wanted to, I could try to aggregate all this data into maybe a yearly report or something like that. So that's one example. What else do people use Excel for in their professional or personal work?
Does anyone use it for like planning trips and stuff? Yeah, itineraries.
For my work, I use it, well, clients send me their data sometimes because they want to switch ERP systems. So they want to migrate their data from their old legacy system to their new, to Odoo system. And so they'll send me their Excel sheets. But I do a lot of data cleaning and project management. I'll use Excel as well. So like Gantt charts. Anna said, I use it to track aggregate IRA contributions and return on investment. Jackie, Excel's heavily used in retail, inventory planning, forecasting. Lots of major retailers still rely on just using Excel docs with lots of macros.
Yeah, it's just so useful. You run into it everywhere. The National Guard runs on Microsoft Excel too. So it's not just finance stuff, it's personnel management, right? Because you can name the columns or whatever you want to track, literally whatever you want. So, you can have names and then whatever you want to track, like when did they last do this event and when do they next need to do this event, so on and so forth. So to take notes. Yeah, better than 2D Word documents where you have to keep scrolling up and so on and so forth. I'll share this example itinerary. You guys can see it. Right, so you don't need any advanced crazy formula, but this is just a better way to just put data down. You break, these are our days of a trip, and these are the time slots, and then these are the events. So, you don't need no crazy advanced formula, but this is a good way to just keep track of data and information. And good thing about Google Sheets, of course, is that everyone in your trip can hop on the thing and edit stuff. So that's a good basic use of Excel.
By the way, for Roy's question on can you import external data from a website that has like live data? The answer is yes. I couldn't really find the functionality in Google Sheets, but in Excel, if you go to the data tab, I think all the way to the left, there's this thing that says external data, and you can import external data from web pages. So theoretically, you could have like a live feed of data for like prices of AirPods. And it could be like a shopping list kind of thing where if there's a price, then like it turns green and then you'll know when to buy it. Maybe you like combine that with like conditional formatting.
You mean like pull the data directly from the
webpage.
website?
Yes.
Did not know that. So I have Excel. I know, Sabrina, you don't have Excel on your personal computer, but
Yeah, I don't have it right now.
so
There should be
is it
something
this
that
get
says
data? Or no,
Yeah.
this one from
Yeah.
web. Oh, did not know that. But Google Sheet doesn't have this function, right?
I don't know. I can find it personally.
Cool. Ooh,
Yeah, then you
okay.
just put the. I think if you type the URL, like let's go to Amazon, or like let's find a web page in Amazon of the thing you're looking for, right?
Amazon.
And then if you type it in, I think it lets you like pick which part of the page you want the information from. Let's look at me Goring. Or like anything, yeah, book. Let's copy this. I think it should
Advanced
work.
or basic?
No, let's go to basic first. I think it brings you to the page and lets you choose.
Use anonymous access for this web content. Select which level to apply.
Bye, Bowden.
Later.
It's taken a while.
I guess Amazon has a lot of data.
Yeah, but I think it basically what it does is it brings you back to the page and then it highlights certain parts of the web page for you to choose your data from. And then like, I guess you choose the price and it should be updated.
Good to know.
Wow,
It's not working
that's
here,
crazy.
but good to know that there's this functionality.
And you know what, guys? I Googled that.
Nice. Yeah, dude, Google will it'll do everything for you. If you have a problem and you're stuck in Excel, just Google it and YouTube it.
Thank you for researching for me, Sab, so I don't have to do it myself.
Another way you can use it is, like Anna said, you can track even your portfolio performance. There's a lot of these plugin things where I'll show you an example real quick. The formula equals Google Finance on Google Sheets, and I'm sure Excel has something similar. If you guys can see this. So, I have multiple brokers, so I have a sheet that tracks all of it. But this one is just an example where this is the formula that I want to point out to you guys. It's super simple. It's equals Google Finance, and then the ticker symbol, which in this case is VGX, and then the price. And this will update whenever you load it up, refresh the page. It'll pull the most recent price of that individual stock. And so here, if you buy more shares, you can update it. I bought 100 shares today, so I'll add 150. And I think this is the current value, I think. Current value. And then the next one, I like to do this to make myself feel good, especially if the high point was 150 and the current price is less than that. I like to make myself feel good and say, hey, this is actually, when it hits the high, this is what the value of my holding will be. So that makes me feel nice. So yeah, and organize it however you want to, pivot charts, pivot tables, right? So you can do a lot with Excel clearly, and you can gain some insights if you were so inclined. What's a good ticker here? Anyways, you can mess around here. All I gotta do is copy and paste this. I'm gonna get the price to Google real quick. Or for 100. So yeah, just another way you can track data and stuff. Oh wow. Just gotta make sure. So finance, another use.
Actually, I find that there aren't really any good YouTube videos for like when I need to search for something. I think just like Google and reading like Reddit and like forums is more useful. Because usually like the YouTube videos, they ask you to like buy this extension or something. So I personally think like those forums are more useful.
My favorite one YouTuber is Layla Garani. She does a lot of Microsoft Excel videos. But like Sabrina said, if like at the specific moment you're looking for a specific feature, I would just Google.
Yeah, there's a lot of blogs online. The answer is out there. Like people have solved your problem before. So it's just a matter of, it's the art of Googling and clicking links. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sabrina. Before we officially end the chat, I'd just like to invite everyone to our next event, which is going to be Nutrition and Sleeping by Crystal. It's going to be on June 19th, so keep an eye out for that email. If you have to drop off and enjoy the rest of the weekend, thank you so much for coming. And if not, if you don't have to leave, just feel free to hang out, stay on the line. But that is the official end. Book club. If you guys are so interested in our book club, we are reading The Midnight Library. We will push out an email. So if I don't have your email and you want to get on that list, just shoot it over real quick and you'll get the info.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Andy said,
Thank you,
when's the
guys.
discussion? When is the discussion? Let me find the date. June 12th, yeah.